Well, good afternoon to you. 5:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Can you believe it? Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States. How did that happen? She's a psychopath. You know, she just did an interview with Katie Couric, who I don't think works for anyone. She just does interviews. She's obscenely rich, so she can afford that. And she sat down with Kamala Harris for a not hard-hitting interview with the vice president of the United States. And they discussed such things as Kamala Harris's deep insecurity about her Wikipedia listing for her height. I'm not kidding. This is the stupid audio.
Meanwhile, why did I think you were much taller? I recently learned you're only 5'2". Is that true?
That is absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
I am 5'4.25".
Okay, and I'm 5'3".
5'4.5", and with heels, which I always wear, I'm 5'7.5". Thank you very much.
Okay, Wikipedia, you're wrong, and we need to
totally
correct
wrong.
that.
I've said this to my team, like, what? I don't know where it came from. I was 5'2" when I was 12.
This is what she's obsessing over. There are a million problems. She's in charge of the border, which is, of course, in total collapse. She's obsessing over getting her team to fix her Wikipedia listing for her height. A deeply dumb and insecure woman. But for more on this, let's bring in Charlie Spiering now. He's a former White House correspondent for Breitbart News. He's the author of the new book, Amatuer, Kamala Harris in the White House. Charlie Spiering, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Vince. It's great to be back.
And I got to hand it to Kamala Harris for doing an interview that exposes the thesis of your book so well in just the last 24 hours.
Yeah, what a true example of just absolute media bias and just very little scrutiny in that 40-minute interview. And I don't think she ever asked once what kind of books or newspapers shaped her worldview.
Yes, the famous question for Sarah Palin that Katie Couric had asked, designed to make Palin look like a big dummy. I was wondering, it's so funny you say that. I was literally wondering last week, I was like, would any reporter ever ask Kamala Harris, what's the last book you read? Just tell me, just name your favorite author. What do you think she would say, Charlie?
Oh, she would say Amateur Hour by Charlie Spiering. So right. Go buy this book today.
Smart. I like that. So, I mean, it's a big thing to say that an American politician is actually just a big amateur. How did you arrive at that conclusion? What did you learn about Kamala Harris that led to this book?
Yeah, just studying the first 3 years and talking to people about everything that's going on behind the scenes. Democrats and Republicans both know something's wrong with Kamala Harris. And so just pointing out all the different flubs, missteps, word salads, times when she's trying to wriggle out of tough assignments, not working well with the Biden team, not really being the true partner, the kind of buddy vice president that Joe Biden wanted.
What
so
is
she's
that?
doing it her way.
Yeah. I mean, is that just a product of her own self-interest? Why is she not a good partner in the White House?
Absolutely. You know, vice presidents, their biggest role is to be the best people at defending the president. You know, that's sort of your number one job. And wow, it's a combination of Kamala Harris doesn't necessarily want to get weighed down with Biden's political baggage, and B, the team Biden doesn't trust her to go out there and defend the president in a comprehensive way that he really wants to have on the record.
One of the there's all sorts of rumors about her, reporting I've seen about her in the past, and I wonder how much of it checked out as you did the reporting for this book. One of them is that she doesn't prepare for anything, that her team will often prepare immense amounts of research for her. They'll put briefing sheets in front of her, but she doesn't actually take the time to read any of them, and then she'll go out and she'll wing the event. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. There's been a couple of examples where that happened, and no one more important than that one that she did with Lester Holt at NBC News when he asked her why she hasn't been to the border. That was that famous gaffe that really sort of set her apart and really exposed her amateur nature. That was the one that they had prepared her for that answer, and she had been asked that before. She should have had a good response set up, and she actually didn't.
Another version of this that I've heard is that she doesn't actually have good relationships with the many people who've worked for her through the years and has high turnover. Typically in Washington, that's a sign of a terrible boss and a very toxic environment. What do you know about that, about her staffing situation?
Yeah, that we saw over 13 people leave in the first 18 months, and there's still a steady rotation out and replacements. It's not as bad as it was in the beginning, and these are seasoned Washington staffers. These are former Obama staffers. These are not just, her friends or family that she brought in to sort of handle Washington. These are seasoned Washington staffers who quickly realized that being with Kamala Harris was only going to go down. And, people in Washington are a little smarter than that. They want to be with somebody who actually has a future, not somebody who is just dragging them down and bullying them behind the scenes.
Every so often I see a story about how Kamala Harris is upset with all of the coverage she receives as being a terrible vice president, not that good at the job. She blames, apparently, the people around her at the White House, and I would assume this includes Joe Biden, for giving her all of the tough jobs, that they're laying the most difficult political questions at her feet, and she's resentful about that. Is that right?
Yeah, there's one incident when they wanted her to do an event on baby formula, and she resisted. Right out of the gate, she resisted. She's like, no, I'm not just going to be the woman that you put out here to handle this critical issue. She relented eventually, but first they had Jill Biden go out there and greet one of those shipments of baby formula that they were flying over from overseas to prove that they actually cared about the issue when moms and dads were struggling to keep formula in their house.
Wait. So she resists doing events designed to keep babies alive, baby formula, but then she willingly dives into events where we kill babies off, abortion rallies?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point, Vince. Wow. She loves the campaigning on the abortion issue more than anything else. It's defined her career. And the Biden campaign is completely happy putting her in that safe space for the duration of the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, so she's the abortion spokeswoman. But my understanding is she doesn't have any kids of her own, right? She's a stepmother, but she doesn't have any biological children.
That's right. She has never had any biological children, and famously, focused on her stepkids and her nickname as Mama La. So. Yeah.
So what's next for Kamala Harris? There's a constant talk, of course, both on this program and everywhere else, about the fact that Joe Biden's not going to live forever, that's for sure. And they may very well give him the hook and pull him away from the big stage. Is Kamala Harris suited to be president of the United States? Do you think Democrats would be okay with that scenario?
Yeah, that's a big part of why I decided to write the book. Kamala Harris could be our next president. She could be the 47th president of the United States if Joe Biden wins re-election and has to step down in the middle of his second term. So, and she could take her slot at the very top position without running a successful campaign on her own. So, yeah, Democrats are paralyzed by that idea. But what scares them more is if Joe Biden can't make it to Election Day. That's when the alarm bells are going to go off.
And that's because do they feel trapped by Kamala? Because Kamala Harris, if you can believe it, she's even less popular than Joe Biden, who's deeply unpopular, the most unpopular president of any of our lifetimes. And simultaneously, Kamala Harris wields identity politics as a cudgel, and I imagine she'd wield it against her own party. Is this why they feel trapped?
Yes, they're absolutely trapped. They can't get rid of Kamala, or they risk angering the entire base that they tried to satisfy by bringing her on the ticket in the first place. Look, what Democrat could possibly come in, swing in, and take that role from Kamala Harris? Only another black woman who could, and one that could theoretically beat President Donald Trump. And gosh, maybe Michelle Obama could do it, but all reports show that she has no interest in running a presidential campaign at this point.
Well, they've lied to us before, so who knows? But the book is Amateur Hour. The author is Charlie Spiering, a real deal White House correspondent who's written a book on the current vice president of the United States. A lot of people should be writing a version of this book, but they aren't because they're scared to. Charlie was not. He wrote the book, and you should purchase it. Amateur Hour. Charlie, thank you so much, sir.
You bet, Vince. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Always great to talk to Charlie Spiering. There he is. That's his work product, Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House. Now, that Katie Couric interview that she did, can we call it an interview? think Chris Plant would call it a fluff job or something. It's grotesque. It's another pornographic example of the media's treatment of Kamala Harris, who really does deserve like actual scrutiny. You know, there should be a lot more coverage that sounds like Charlie Spiering's book, and yet there isn't. Here's Kamala talking to Katie Couric about her deep thoughts on November of 2024 and how wouldn't it be awful if the DOJ was weaponized? Please put your drink down so you don't do a spit take.
November of 2024, binary. And on the other side, you've got someone who has said that if he were back in office, he would weaponize the Department of Justice. Someone who has openly applauded insurrectionists as patriots. Someone who...
You know, at some point, you know, it's so funny, like they literally, it's just all projection. They just accuse the other side of doing exactly what they're doing. At some point, they're going to start accusing Donald Trump of aborting the country's babies. You know, right? They're going to, like, it is so brazen, the stuff that comes out of their mouths. And Kamala Harris is comically bad at it. She's like, can you imagine if he comes into office, if someone were to weaponize the Justice Department, she says, as if that's not precisely what's happening right now.
Who has said that they will go after their political enemies.
Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine? What if he indicted his top presidential opponent? What if he indicted them? You know? Even with people chanting, lock her up, Donald Trump never indicted Hillary Clinton. He was president. You know, he had the opportunity. He didn't do that. Joe Biden has how many dozens of indictments? Charges have they lodged against his political opponent? The front runner for president of the United States? No, I didn't say the Republican frontrunner. I mean, the nationwide frontrunner for president of the United States is Donald Trump, Joe Biden's top opponent. And Biden has charged him endlessly using the Justice Department. And here's Kamala Harris saying, could you imagine? He's going to go after his political enemies.
Political enemies. And applauds dictators.
He doesn't applaud Biden.
Indicating that he would be one. So let's be really clear about what's at stake. And then, yes, of course, there is then a desire that let's get out there because we can't lose this democracy.
Is there brain breaking at the end of this?
We can't.
What is that? Slow talker, slow thoughts. She's like totally frozen at the end. We can't lose this. And there's a guy in the background going, democracy, democracy, democracy. She stuck the landing. She says that, don't listen to the public. We've achieved so much. We have so many accomplishments.
We have a lot of accomplishments. And I think what the American people want most in their leaders is that we actually get things done. And we have done it. We haven't taken adequate credit for it.
Just like the Iraqi information minister.
Frankly. And we got to do a better job of getting the word out about what we have accomplished and who did it.
This is the old America is too stupid to realize how great we are. We just have to get the word out. We haven't done a good enough job of spinning the public on our achievements. We have achievements, I tell you, but the public doesn't know because we haven't convinced them. Our friends over at the Media Research Center have put together an amazing supercut. Listen to this. This is just while we're on the subject of you're too stupid to realize how good Biden is. Listen to this. These are all the members of the media who suck up to the White House who claim the economy is doing fantastic. You're just too dumb to realize.
The real story about the U.S. economy. Nobel Prize winner Paul Krugman lays out the dollars and cents for why Americans are wrong to feel so down about it.
How's the economy doing?
Well, there's the difference between how it looks and how it feels.
Right.
Actually, the economy's doing okay right now.
If you actually take a step back, the U.S. economy is strong.
The economy, by all objective measures, is doing pretty damn well.
The economy has actually been incredibly strong.
The Biden economy is great.
Yes. How does it look? Honestly, pretty damn fantastic.
But will voters give President Biden credit for it?
The question for Biden is, will voters give him credit?
When we report on how great the economy is doing,
What do you feel that?
Why aren't voters giving President Biden credit?
Americans don't seem to be giving him the credit. Why is that, and what does he have to do to turn that around?
If people aren't paying attention to it, then it's very hard to go out and take credit.
We have over $34 trillion in debt. People can't afford groceries. Your gas prices are higher than when Joe Biden took office. Everybody's poorer than they were 4 years ago. They're sitting there going, how come Americans aren't getting the message? These guys are so stupid. They don't realize how good the economy is. Over $1 trillion in credit card debt. We've never had that much. People taking multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet, losing their full-time jobs by the millions. Every newsroom in America just laid off half of their newsroom at least in the last week. Have you seen all these headlines? Oh yeah, the economy's doing great.
Voters don't understand essentially or grasp that he's had these legislative wins.
Most voters don't understand what you're trying to tell them.
Are we going to get to the point where facts do not matter? And for the economy example, people are going to feel the way that aligns with their political party.
Oh my gosh. All right, it's 5:22 now.
I want to get to the heart of what I think you're raising, which you have said is his age. So let's talk about that. I spend a lot of time with Joe Biden, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. And I can tell you, this is someone who is tireless in terms of working on behalf of the American people. To your point of knowing Joe Biden, he comes from a background and a place in his heart and soul where he cares so deeply about working people, about families.
Wow. She said a whole lot of nothing there. That's Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden is tireless, she said. He's 1,000 years old. He's on vacation 40% of the time. He only works between the hours of 10 and 4. He's a tireless president of the United States. She doesn't ever see him. She lied about that too. Coming up on the program, we'll take your calls and we'll give you the latest in this border dispute and so much more. 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 5:35 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. It'd be great to have you with us. I have just been belly laughing at the Canadian government today. You see, a federal court ruled in Canada. I know we don't cover much Canadian news here, and for good reason, but a federal court there in Canada this past week ruled that Justin Trudeau's crackdown of the truckers during, the COVID protests, the ones where the truckers were trying to argue that the government shouldn't destroy their lives. And then, of course, Trudeau turns around and raids their bank accounts and crushes them, ends their hot tub party in the middle of the streets in the cities of Canada. It was unconstitutional. Even Canada's constitution doesn't allow for that kind of tyranny. And that was the big ruling this past week. Of course, Canadian officials all defending it. Well, we did what we had to do to keep people safe, eh? It's like, no. You can't trample on decent people who are just trying to do their jobs. Not even in Canada. But they do. They try to do it all the time. So, and it's unfortunate. Fidel Castro's son is leading Canada right now into the pits, and that shouldn't happen. So the reason I'm laughing so hard, though, this week is Tucker Carlson, my buddy Tucker, my old boss Tucker. He started the week by filming himself leaving a voicemail for Justin Trudeau's office, promising that he was on his way to liberate Canada, which is just a hoot. This is Tucker just leaving a voicemail.
Thank you for your call. You have reached the media line. For all urgent requests, please send your request by email. Merci pour votre appel. Vous avez atteint la ligne médiatique. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, hi. I couldn't understand the French part, but it's Tucker Carlson calling from the United States. And I'd be grateful if you pass a message on to the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. We are coming to liberate Canada. We are coming to liberate Canada. And we'll be there soon. Merci.
Merci for coming to live in Canada. So amusing. I mean, what is Tucker going to do? He's not bringing an army with him. So he was going to speak. He was going to speak in Canada. We found that out. And so yesterday, he gives a big speech there. And our friend, our mutual friend, Simon Atiba, has been documenting a lot of this. Here's an example of part of Tucker's speech to a sold-out massive audience in Canada. Apparently, they want to see Tucker Carlson. They all arrived to do that, and here he is, just beating up on old Justin Trudeau with words.
For Canadians to know what's happening and to understand, you need a way. And it can't just be about Justin Trudeau, who's, if I could just say, so absurd that guy is going to sashay off into history fairly soon, I think. Because, I mean, honestly, someone told me last night, I was talking to someone, to one of your countrymen, I know his cousin Gavin Newsom, but he's so ridiculous. He's so transparently phony. I mean, I'm mesmerized watching him. And so my very obvious, as a foreigner, question at dinner was, does anyone believe him? And everyone was, oh yeah, young people do. I hope that's not true. No, it's not true.
Anyway, so he's beating up on Justin Trudeau. By the way, if you heard a little bit of gap in the audio, we did have to dump somebody yelling F Trudeau in the middle of that audio. We didn't have a chance to censor it, but I'll just tell you what it was, and leave the rest to the imagination. So yeah, Canadians, who obviously in the audience, they don't like Trudeau. They hate the guy. They think he's a scumbag. And so they're there attending this speech from Tucker. Amusing. So here's the update. The Canadian government, all of these like crazy officials, are all now responding, and they're furious that Tucker came to their country, and they're issuing grumpy statements about how now he's bringing about threats of violence or something because he criticized them. This is the left, and the best thing about this is not inside of our own country. It's like far away and kind of hilarious, but it's a perfect case study in the way the left operates all over the world, where you have, this is climate czar Stephen Guilbeault, who is accusing Tucker of inciting violence by criticizing the leftist government in Canada. Listen to this.
And Minister Guilbeault, I mean, you're the minister that, as your colleague was saying, was targeted. I mean, how do you feel about your new
I mean, this goes beyond me and the fact that I was targeted last night at this event. This increases political...
Targeted through what? What did Tucker do? How did he did he get a sniper rifle out and aim the sights at you? What are you talking about? The scope was trained on me. I saw the lasers. No, he criticized you. Targeted. This is dangerous, they say. This is and this is how they operate. So they will rob Canadians of liberty because someone criticized the government.
Political violence against everyone who runs for office in this country, whether they're doing it at the municipal level, at the provincial level, or at the federal level. As my friend and colleague Randy said, like, we can have differences of opinion. We can bang our fist on the table when we meet. We can have strong disagreement. But to incite violence?
Can you hear this guy's voice? Would you put him in charge of anything in your life? Why is he in charge of the climate in Canada? It's like Porky Pig, this guy. Like, he's completely lost.
When we meet, we can have strong disagreement, but to incite violence against people who disagree with you, that's not how things should be done in Canada.
Play the audio for me. Where did he incite violence? Give us the example that you're referencing. In fact, one of the reporters does ask, what are you talking about?
How things should be done in Canada.
Can you clarify what is the violence? What is the violence? I think the minister also said this in French. What is the violence that they are bringing to Canada? What is the political violence that you're talking about? Just to be very clear.
Well, to put a target on someone's back, for example,
to criticize? You're a psychopath and a tyrant, and you should not have this job. Obviously. Now, it gets even better, because now you have Justin Trudeau is attacking Tucker and saying that Tucker is a Putin apologist. So now this is how it goes. So now Tucker's on the side of the Russians. He's a Soviet now because he said that Justin Trudeau is a tyrant.
My very first call this year was with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Oh my gosh.
Who wanted
his very first call
to know
He didn't even kiss his wife at midnight. He called Volodymyr Zelensky on New Year's.
That Canada still stood with him, that Canadians still stood with him. And I told him, yes, we do. The Canadian government and most of the parties in the House will continue to stand with him.
Because we are globalists, and we will always be globalists.
But Pierre Poilievre and his conservatives?
Is Pierre Poilievre the guy who was eating the apple? Yeah, I like that guy. Some reporter was asking him some questions and accusing him of being like an extremist. He's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? No, be more specific. And he just kept eating this apple, and the reporter talked himself into the ground. Like, by the end of it, the reporter didn't even know what to say anymore because he was like, all he was doing was trying to advance a political agenda. The guy was asking for more details. It's great. It's great. Honestly, there are like incredible people all over the planet. It's worth acknowledging that.
House will continue to stand with him. But Pierre Poilievre and his conservatives chose to vote against support for Ukraine, calling it a faraway foreign land.
He really does look like his dad, by the way. I'm watching the video here. He looks so much like Castro.
To appease Putin apologists like Tucker Carlson and those who enable him.
Did somebody say shame? What is this? Is this Game of Thrones? I think somebody goes, shame, shame.
Tucker Carlson and those who enable him.
Shame, shame.
Well, he does that. We have people like Yvonne Baker and Mark Gerritsen who are showing our liberal government won't back down when it comes to standing up to bullies and fighting for democracy
Say
at
the
home.
bullies. Say the people opposed to democracy. He's listing off all of his globalist buddies in the Canadian government. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's what's happening in Canada. As I said, I was belly laughing at this, and I just think it's the best. I think isn't it amazing that a guy who has a Twitter show, we call it X now, a guy with an X show can go and literally just go to Canada and give a speech, and the whole Canadian government loses its mind in less than 24 hours. Boy, is your hold on power that fragile that a couple of words about how you're wielding it incorrectly is going to lead to a meltdown? And the sad thing is, like, that's the kind of thing that happens here too, honestly. I mean, our government officials are the same way. They lose their minds when they're critiqued. They can't stand it. They can't stand it. Boy, do they want to crush the people who critique them, who criticize them, especially if you mock them. Mockery. That's a quick way to get crushed. There was a guy. What was the name of the guy who made the meme about Hillary Clinton? Prosecuted by the Biden Justice Department and thrown in jail. He made a meme about Hillary. Whoa, you can't do that? You can't. You made a meme? You made a meme? Corey's looking it up. You probably know it. If you're listening to the radio, I'm sure lots of people are yelling at me right now. It's fine. But the point is, that happened here. That Douglas Mackey. Thank you very much. Douglas Mackey. You can stop yelling at your radio. Yeah, Douglas Mackey. He made it. Guy makes a meme about Hillary Clinton and her supporters. Bam! Taken down. No, actually, no, I shouldn't say bam. I should say tick, 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 bam. It would be years later when Biden takes power. Then they destroy that guy's life. Well after the 2016 election. So, yeah, that's what's going on. And, yeah, it's amusing when it's happening in those other countries. It's far scarier when it's happening to your own. Far scarier. Oh. All right, let's see here. Let's check in on our phones. Our excellent callers are pouring in. Let's see. Teresa is calling in from Olney now, line 5. Teresa, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Callahan Show.
Hi, Vince. Thank you.
Hi, Teresa.
I was telling Corey, I don't even know what to say about that interview with Katie Couric and Kamala.
Yes. Katie Couric interviewed Kamala Harris, and she doesn't have a show either. It's just everyone's just got these random web shows now. Katie Couric's one of them.
But it's the way that, I don't know what network had that. I guess NBC, because that's what she's affiliated with. But the audacity of them they just assume, they just think that the American people are just so dumb. And that was nauseating. Like, who really with a brain would be like, Everything she's saying, yes, is great. Like, she's so smart.
Well, do you remember that? Did you ever see that movie Idiocracy? You familiar with that film?
No, I'm not.
There's a movie called Idiocracy. It came out in 2006, and it is a ridiculous film about basically the dumbest people on the planet all become the head of the American government. And it's like this, and everything is and everyone is completely dumb. Like now, people are watering their plants with their equivalent of Gatorade. They think that's how you're supposed to water plants, and nobody knows why the crops are dying. And one guy, Luke Wilson, says, "Well, what if we did it with water?" And all of a sudden, the crops start coming back, and they think he's the smartest man on the planet. And it's all totally ridiculous. And in that movie, Terry Crews, the actor, plays President Camacho, and he's like a WWF wrestler, or WWE these days. And he's like, he always steps out and they've always got like fireworks going off. He's like, yeah, he's like screaming. And it's just all so stupid. And you're looking at it going, can it really get that dumb? And here we are. We're living in it right now.
We really are. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they are illegitimate. And that's, I will keep my peace the rest of my comments, but because I just don't think that this is real.
But that's why they're so panicked, Teresa. That's why every time there's any even tiny criticism of their power, they become so tyrannically threatened by it. They become hysterical. So this is why they're trying to remove Trump from ballots. They're like, they can't even let voters have the option to remove them.
Yes, it is. And everything that's happening in Texas right now.
Yes.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
It's madness. It's
my blood pressure has been very high listening to your show.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't. That's definitely not what I want to do. Here's my goal, Teresa. I want to keep everybody's head on a swivel. I want to keep my own head on a swivel. And I've got some mobility issues too, so it's hard to swivel my head, but I try. And then the other piece is like, I do want people to kind of enjoy this and laugh at it, because you've got to, right? You've got to laugh at some of this.
We have to laugh at it, otherwise we would be crying and curled up in our bed all day.
I know.
So we're happy warriors, and we know what's happening. We're aware, and
Amen.
That's why I love you all. You all are like, I'm a proud WMAL housewife. So yes, you all are my family.
Thank you so much. Happy Warriors. When you say that, you make me think of Andrew Breitbart too. I didn't know Andrew Breitbart as well as Larry. Larry worked with him. He was friends with him. They had a great relationship going back, Larry O'Connor. But before, go ahead.
I think his anniversary of his death was yesterday.
Was it really yesterday?
If Larry didn't mention it, then it might not have been. But I thought I saw something on my Facebook memory that it was. So we'll have to fact check that. Maybe,
he died March 1st.
Larry's listening.
March 1st. No. It's coming up. But that was 2012. And so I'll just very quickly say, I got a chance to meet him when his book came out. I was at the Daily Caller. We hosted his book party, so we were able to have this event with him in D.C. And he was a hoot. He was a blast. And anytime one of our reporters was attacked by the rest of the media for something, and it happened every so often, one of the first people to call and to support that person would be Andrew Breitbart. He would call them and say, "I'm with you, fight the bastards." He was like just super awesome. He was a great guy, and I remember distinctly when he passed away, and the news was breaking the morning of that day. I texted Tucker and I said, "Hey," and Tucker was in some meeting at Fox at the time. I said, "I just saw Breitbart passed away." Tucker ran out of a meeting and he called me and he goes, "What happened?" I said, "They said Andrew Breitbart passed away. I don't know what happened." And it was at that moment, everyone started learning what was going on. But the point of all of this is, Happy Warrior. When I think of that, I think of Andrew Breitbart, because he truly was. In the face of all of this chaos, he predicted so much of it. He saw it happening, even then, he kept a great spirit about himself.
Yeah, there was a quote. I think it was. Maybe I'm not getting the quote totally right, but he said something like, "Don't run away from the fire, walk to it," or something.
Yes.
Walk, something like that. And I remember that about him, and I'm like, just have to keep that, keep us going.
Amen. All right. Well, Teresa, thank you. Your call uplifted me, so thank you very much. Good to talk to you today. Joe Biden still hasn't been to East Palestine, Ohio. He flew over it, though, went to Wisconsin for a campaign stop today. Tony Evers, the governor, introduced him as the big guy.
You know, I am the last speaker before the big guy comes out.
Before the big guy comes out, bumbling Joe Biden did come out, and here's what he sounded like.
The beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why he's trying to...
What did he say? He sounds like this guy.
They're making a popcorn. They're making a popcorn. They're ready to send it to wounded.
Yeah, the next guy up on this station is not the Swedish Chef. It's the great one, Mark Levin on WMAL.